Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Moon Colony live stream. It's nice to see you all again. I've got lovely Arthur with us here today. How are you doing?
Hey guys, everybody, it's good, doing good, thanks.
Yeah, we were
Doing all
just
right.
laughing in the chat. Well, we were just laughing before we started about the message that Battle put in there. It's like, oh, nice. Arthur might be one of the best artists to have ever lived. So, it's a great ego boost to get us started. Um,
Yeah, I do have to live up to that reputation now, though, with my
yeah,
little drawing things into perspective.
yeah,
Best thing you've ever seen.
yeah. No pressure, no pressure. But yes, hello again, hello everybody. It's good to see you. So, um, I've grabbed Arthur in here today to maybe take a look at something a bit more advanced. I think is the better way to look at it. Is a good way to look at it, I suppose. Because we spoke on a previous stream about how people might struggle with doing more organic shapes in perspective, and since we spoke a little bit about that, I thought, why not get you in to show everyone how to do it?
Sure.
So,
Sounds good.
yeah, so as always, if anyone has any questions as we go along, then feel free to drop them in the chat. I can pass them over to Arthur if he's not looking, and feel free to follow along with us at home if you wish. But I will let Arthur crack on and get on with it.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, so yeah, welcome everybody. It's nice to have this new subject. It's nice, like it feels like we just organically move on from one thing to the next and just explore.
Yeah.
Uh, like preferably everything that's complicated, everything that's we know we should be able to do, but we're not always quite sure how to do it. Uh, and I feel like from one stream to the next, I always talk just about perspective and fundamentals. Just
We'll get you on. We'll get you on some new stuff soon.
Sure.
Oh no.
Something cute, dragons or something. I don't know, like something cute,
Oh, something cute. Yeah,
I'm kidding. It's just Let's. I'm happy to tackle those. Okay. Okie dokie. But yeah, perspective is super important. It's something that like right now in Moon Colony we're looking for artists to we're always looking for more talented people, and we see a majority of people who are good render artists who can capture and like showcase the sort of surface elements of something, like the style of something, or who can massage a piece into something final looking. It's especially true with illustrators, and I'm an illustrator myself, so I'm not knocking on illustrators at all. In fact, I saw, like, there's an interview of why do I forget his name? Wow, like the biggest concept artist ever.
So I just googled biggest concept artist ever.
Craig Mullins. Sorry, I was gonna say Phil Collins. This is not it. Craig Mullins. So there's an interview of Craig Mullins by Bobby Chu about like what makes a good artist, right? And at the time I was at a time where I was mostly just an illustrator, and I was a bit insecure. I thought intelligent people do concept art, and illustrators are just like, we just massage together a nice, like, pretty picture. I've heard that word a lot, and I take great umbrage at it, because illustrators don't just do pretty pictures. And that interview of Craig Mullins really emphasized that. He said, and I really believe him, and I appreciate what he said, like, it takes just as much intelligence, as much creativity, as much talent to be an illustrator than it does to be a concept artist. It's just that not all illustrators really, focalize on those fundamentals that could put them to the next level. And that's something we're looking for at Moon Colony, is illustrators where with a deeper understanding of fundamentals, and perspective is really one of these. So hopefully these series of streams will help you develop, like at least or at least highlight some points of your development to become a better illustrator. It works for concept artists as well, of course. Perspective is sort of universal, um, but it is something really to use in illustration a lot. So all right. So today we're going to talk about organic forms in perspective. So what it means is that perspective is, of course, it's like the imitation of squares in space, right? We're drawing things in depth. So here's a vanishing point on the right, on the left, sorry, here. So that's just depth. Um, then I have another one stretching from the far right, and wherever they cross, it's supposed to give us the illusion that they're crossing at 90 degrees. That's really all it is. It's making a tiling on the floor and in the sky, and showing us, of course, a very nice and consistent horizon. That's really essentially what perspective is. It's supposed to show us squares everywhere horizontally, and also squares vertically. So where depth intersects with verticals, you have like what you should understand as being a square, but like sort of stretched in space. So it's perspective. A perspective grid is just supposed to really help you visualize all those squares, vertical and horizontal squares, and that horizon.
Yeah.
And of course, it works marvelously well when we're doing like a hard surface design, like an architecture. Like you have I don't know, the wall of a castle right there, and then we know exactly where it should recede to the right, all that stuff. You can then project where one window could be and where the other could be, all that stuff. So that's pretty easy. It's like 101, perspective 101. But it's also useful for organic forms. So I'll show you how. Finally, I think we're 10 minutes in. Okay. All right.
Just quickly, I think we've gone over it a few times before, but Dash has just asked in the chat, do you use a brush or a plugin for the grid? But I don't think you do you?
Okay. I don't use either. Okay, so what I use is a vanishing point. It's a square. It's a bunch of lines intersecting in the middle in a square. Then I have verticals, and then I have some. That's a bit maybe for another day. I could show you that, but like I have also like curved things to do, like a curvilinear perspective. It's just the same thing, but just with more lines.
Oh wow!
Like the three same layers, but just with more lines. Because sometimes I just need just a few lines. Sometimes I need it much more because it depends how stretched it's supposed to be and how much canvas you have.
Sure.
But yeah, it's essentially verticals and a vanishing point are my two sort of layers that I keep on this file and that I use to create a perspective grid. So when you do a perspective grid, you're supposed to, like, in our perception, we can see more likely one vanishing point at a time. it's with our field of vision, our human field of vision, it's unlikely that we can see two vanishing points. It's possible, but it's really stretching the limits of our field of view. So in general, if you have one vanishing point visible, the other should actually stretch or like much further into off screen. That's what I mean, really. Of course, both can be off screen. It's okay too. But yeah, my point is, if you have one vanishing point, make sure the other is invisible. It's going to give you this sort of stretched squares that are consistent with a sort of human perspective. Because otherwise, I'll just make try it here. All right, I'll just put one vanishing point here and put the other one here. And you see, it gives you this like vertiginous, elevation up and down. And so if you were to draw a character in this perspective, let's say, or whatever you draw, you'd have like the eyes facing that way, the mouth, then like the shoulders. shapes here. Like the change in elevation would be too exaggerated, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely. You know, it just make no sense from our the way we're used to perceiving things. So that's why I keep a nice sort of flat-looking perspective in general. So I just started with this one here as an example, and now let's see first of all what happens when we don't draw things in perspective, even organic things. So let's take 3 palm trees. Okay, we'll start with their base. So just do the base of one palm tree here. Some other ones more in the distance, and here closer to us, I guess, and a little bigger. I'll draw something more interesting than palm trees later. This is just a first example.
It's okay. You remember, you're one of the best artists that's ever lived, Arthur. So
I almost forgot. Sorry.
Yeah. Whatever you do, it's gonna be a masterpiece, and we'll sell it for millions.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay. All right. Then bunch of coconuts here, and then just a few leaves over here, and same here. And finally, bigger coconuts, bigger leaves. Right. So, and what happens after that is that what you're likely to do without a perspective grid is go from one object to the next to try to fix perspective as you go along. Like something's going to look off, so you're like, oh, let me actually lift. Maybe, oh, this should be here. This leaf should be lower. You know what I mean? Like this one can be higher. So it's going to be a lot of comparing between objects, and that can make you lose a ton of time. And fundamentally speaking, when you work as a freelancer, you want to be able to provide a solution quickly that's intelligible quickly by your client or your colleagues or whoever. And so if the thing is vague and you're telling them, but trust me, in the end, I'll make it work. Like in the end, my illustrations always work. Don't worry about it. It might be true, and it's often true when you see a portfolio that with like just a bunch of really cool looking pictures. Yeah. You just don't know how much time went into it. Sometimes months, and sometimes and you don't have months sometimes, you know, as when you're working on a project, and a client is supposed to be able to see at least your point right away. So yeah, perspective grid is really where it's at. And so let me remove those arrows here, and now let's do things again, but in perspective this time. So right away you can see that the distance between palm trees might be okay, sort of all right. Maybe this one could be a little lower. Like having a perspective grid just sort of solves a bunch of stuff for you right away.
Yeah.
It just gives you a sort of it changes your flat canvas into a deep 3D space full of volume. Yeah. And what it does especially is that it sort of informs you as to the changes in elevation. So if this is the horizon, this, you know, progressively we're looking up at things, and suddenly we're able to see very accurately and very precisely how even randomly arranged shapes should behave. So for example, this coconut here, if we're to draw like its sort of median lines, could be something like this.
I'm just seeing some people saying they're totally being called out with these palm tree example.
That's funny.
That's good.
yeah. And then, you know, the further, like, for example, this sort of quadrant here, this area of the perspective, we're sort of seeing how, like, exactly how high the palm tree is supposed to be, like from below, from our point of view, like just our guy here just looking up. We can see exactly how, from under, like what angle we're actually looking at things, which is impossible if you don't have a perspective grid. And the tendency when you don't have a perspective grid is to sort of flatten everything. Everything is sort of pretty much at high level, just with slight variations. And sometimes for dramatic effect, we increase the, you know, the underlook, like the sort of upshot feeling, but only on some things. And then the rest can look very average. And yeah, and that's really something you want to avoid. Right. So this was just sort of a first example as to how to then visualize those randomly assorted shapes more in perspective now. Same for like the leaves now. We can see, okay, we're viewing this leaf from below. So this is the underside. This one too, this one too. We're seeing nothing really from the face. Maybe this one here. Like this. Stuff like that. And sort of the rings on the tree, we can see exactly like, so here's the horizon, like how it behaves like on each tree. So everything above that will have a progressively more pronounced curve, especially if the tree is sort of bending that way. But like that, you can, like, it's just common sense, right? Like we know, but it's just harder to, it's just easier to see once you have the perspective grid. It's like you can sense immediately what's with a bit of training. You know, it's kind of weird at first to use perspective grids for everything, but you sort of learn how to sort of tune it out slightly, so you just see it whenever you want to see it. But yeah, it's really important. This way you can just focalize on, yeah, those changes in elevation and just the placement of everything, just making sure it's right there on the ground where it needs to be, so you can sort of relate it in distance between, like, with each other. And you can discover some sort of alignments. You know, it's like, okay, this one here, these two trees are like perfectly aligned with the depth of the picture. It's just a landmark. You know, it sort of helps you create landmarks and really understand. And if you need to add more stuff, you'll know exactly the area you have in between, and you know how to sort of play within that area. Let's say you want a little, I don't know, I forgot what it's called, like a sort of beach,
like a little
not
beach
a
hut.
tent, but
Like
yeah, right. Good. Let's make it a beach hut. Good. So okay, right away, like this is more architecture right away. Like it's just a square thing, but let's make it a round thing. And perspective also helps you understand how flat circles should be on the floor.
Okay.
That's really, it's really elementary, but it's, you'd be surprised, you know, how many artists still, like, if you try to wing it, it's likely to look wrong, and somebody will have to call it, and somebody will have to fix it. Most likely you as the artist. So it's a shame. And if you're not too sure why it's exactly wrong, if you're always just massage something together again, send it to the client, hope they don't notice anything wrong, and then still saying it's a little weird, it's a little off, you can go through, you know, feedback loops like this that just make everybody waste time, and it's not a great look on you. So yeah, perspective helps with even just circles, just, you know, defining how flat a circle should be on the floor. Anyway, that was just an illustration on how about that point, but I'm not going to draw the whole hut. What I wanted to draw next was, yeah, okay, so that's just the first sort of point about that. Now, just for some fun, I'll draw something that's not at all like there's zero regularity to it. Only just random stuff. Like, so it's gonna be a sort of like trees with branches and stuff, and like a snake sort of hanging from a branch and looking at us or something, you know.
Cool.
So yeah, that'll just be the thing. So I'll make it start off screen, down off screen. Like by the way, having those vertical lines, you see, like because the horizon is so low, you can make the vertical lines. You can squeeze them a little bit up top, so they're almost going to become eventually they're going to become a third vanishing point, like way up in the distance. But they're like so far up that it's no use calling them like a 3-point perspective or something. It's just but it's just a little trick. Like you can sort of contract the pull them closer together up top if your horizon is low, so it increases the feeling that you're looking up at something.
Okay.
Anyway, and it gives you a very precise indication of what's actually vertical. So if your tree should follow that vertical with that subtle tilt, that subtle change in elevation, in verticality, then having this perspective really helps. Then you can choose, for example, we can have a branch start really like in that axis. So like really align with the off-screen vanishing point. Or we can choose something slightly different, but at least we'll have a landmark to base our judgment on.
Yeah, so you have that tree there as almost like an anchor to to keep everything in line.
Yeah.
Nice.
And see, because of this, because I know exactly where the horizon is, I can sense with all these squares here, I can sense how, like, exactly the angle at which I'm viewing this branch here. So I know I'm mostly looking at it from below. And if you send a sketch to your client with the perspective slightly on like this, they'll tell, at least it can give them even more, especially if the sketch is very rough, it can give them like an immediate understanding of exactly what you mean with the way you're dealing with space. So it's another advantage of that. One thing to pay attention to when you draw in perspective is to, especially with organic forms, is to not follow too closely those grid things, because it can look a little weird, a little off. I'll flip the canvas and I'll just
I was going to say
reinterpret.
I was going to say it's interesting to see you're not following them exactly. You know, you can. There's still a little bit of wiggle room there.
Yeah. Perspective grid, especially for like forest, organic stuff like that, it's really not at all to align something specifically. Even like, for example, let's say you're trying to draw a creature or a person or whatever in perspective. If it's supposed to have like a like an orthographic view, just like a person's like facing straight ahead, so then maybe you can follow like directly, place the shoulders here, the head over there, exactly that orientation for the face, all that, you can be super like follow strictly the perspective grid. But even with a sort of organic natural looking pose, you can use perspective, like you can use the depth, for example, as the overall axis for your character. So let's say maybe only the face is facing that way, and the rest you'll know exactly where, like how much to deviate from that axis. Like you'll be able to visualize exactly how much you're deviating. So if the client, or just if you're thinking, okay, I want like a slightly like twisted pose like this, you'll be able to tell if this is like the straight on face. Like if you put the shoulder here, you know exactly what it means, like in terms of how much you're twisting, like how far away. You can actually measure how far away you've deviated from a straight facing forward sort of pose there.
Wow.
And same like with the verticals, like now I know exactly the verticals is like slightly moving the left here. And so if I want my character to be bent over, I can measure, I can just compare exactly how bent they are, overall. Um, and if I want his knee to be like to be bent forward, I'll be able to tell either I can follow this line and make it like aligned with his gaze, for example, like where he's facing, and so that could be exactly the same here. Or I can deviate, but I'll know exactly how much I'm deviating from it. If I put the knee here, I'll you know what I mean? Like I'll just know exactly, because I'm not comparing things with each other. I'm comparing everything back to that original point. Yeah, that vanishing point, that sort of depth thing. So this is an indication of how you can use just depth alone, especially because depth is like the vanishing point, like in the back of the picture. So it's likely to be, if your character is facing us, which is most of compositions, it's a character with the face and the chest like mostly visible, most likely. So this is going to be a good indicator of your the axis of action, I guess, of your character, and placing it placing your vanishing point on purpose to indicate to you that sort of general axis of action for the characters. I think it's a good way to go. And for example, if you have several characters running or whatever, just in a team, this is where perspective is also super important. Is that here I know that my character facing forwards means this. Now, if I have a character further in the back, to him facing forward means exactly this.
Oh, interesting.
And I know exactly how much to deviate from it. It's all, and I won't have to go back and forth a million times between these two, wondering where am I going off? It's too much. The client is being unrealistic. Like they don't know what they're talking about. They say it's going too much that way, but I think I got this. Like if they can only trust me until the end, I'll show them. Like no. Like and if the client is like unreasonable, you can tell them, no, here's a perspective. Like if you want me to make it different, I'll make it different. But like here's what I'm actually following. There's a logic behind it. Anyway, so right. So if this character, if they're running exactly in the same position, let's say, you'll know by moving more to the right, that angle should be more pronounced. Like this should be viewed more from, like we should see more like the torso bending forward a little more.
Yeah.
And then if the shoulder is up and forward like that, it should be up and forward like that. If that one is back like this. If the knee is forward and slightly to the left, we'll put it forward and just slightly to the left. It's unlikely that this is going to happen, this scenario. But what's more likely to happen is that you'll have to make variations that look natural, so like a bit of chaotic difference between the two, like some sort of organic just difference between two characters, and having this vanishing point in the back informing you of everything will it will help you compare, like, so between the two, but with that vanishing point as a reference. So you're like, okay, I want something different from this guy, so I'll just reach back to my vanishing point, see how that affects his leg, and then make a personal judgment as to how low I want to go, like knowing the sort of phantom pose, that this would have otherwise. Like if I was to follow exactly the same pose as this guy, like I can just replicate more easily the same pose as this guy, and I can also deviate more knowingly from that same pose. And you can just keep adding, and you know that the further you go to the right, the more like you'll see the character from the side, sorry. And also you'll be able to see that now with this vanishing point here, like these lines coming from the right, you'll be able to tell that if these characters are supposed to be aligned, like in the same row, like I don't know, some soldiers or something from like a few hundred years ago, like all charging in just one line, one straight line, you'll be able to align their shoulders like roughly on the same line, and you'll know exactly what that line is, and you'll be able to add like purposeful variations to the depth. You'll say, okay, I'll just pull this guy slightly back and this guy slightly forward. So this, you know what I mean? It's all purposeful. The point about perspective is that it makes your choices more purposeful and more informed.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's understandable.
Let me see. Hey, I recognize some people in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, hello Leo.
Nico.
Hayuta. Yeah, Nico's here. A little late but excited for today. Long time no see. Hello everyone, am I late? I wouldn't say that you were late. We've been going for about half an hour.
Yeah. All right, but that's just a quick tangent on characters. Let's go back to trees and such.
Yeah. Metaline
Also,
says, oops, sorry.
yeah.
I was going to say, Metaline says, I've been in the server a while, but this is my first stream. So, hello, Metaline. Nice to see you. I've seen you around in the server, but it's nice to have you on the stream. Yeah. I'll let you carry on, Arthur.
Welcome. Yeah, no worries. Right. So I wanted to say also, like, the perspective also helps you understand how bigger things get the closer they get to us. Because depending on the field of view, depending on the I guess I'm not a big lens person, but I know that like some lenses just exaggerate the sense of perspective. Like, you know, like foreshortening gets exaggerated with like a fisheye lenses or something. I forgot what it's called, but anyway, whatever. Like, so yeah, I'm not gonna name them lenses because I'm not like a real camera person, but whatever perspective you use is gonna inform you exactly how like things the same size should get, like how much bigger they should get in space the closer they are to you. So for example, let's make just a cylinder here. Of course, like this side is slightly bigger now because it's slightly closer to you than that side over there. And of course, we're not drawing like cylinders perfectly aligned, but what it means is start from scratch. Is that if I draw a branch that's supposed to be somewhat regular, maybe tapering towards the end a little bit, I'll know that it should not. I'll know that here, like even if it's tapering normally, like actually tapering, like getting smaller towards the end, because this perspective here is like getting closer to me, I should actually be mindful of not making it too small, keeping it pretty even, at least just for this scenario that I just that I just made up on the fly. But yeah, and perspective can really help you understand the progression in size of things in space. One thing you can do if you're too like if it's a bit confusing or if it's a bit distracting, this perspective grid, is first draw without one. Try your best, like be creative, do all the creative stuff you want to do, and then devise a perspective grid and try to move things around just to match that perspective grid. Or as soon as you have a problem and an uncertainty with while drawing without perspective, then put up a few vanishing points and that will sort of inform you right away why something felt off. And it's really a very fundamental and crucial tool in the artist's kit. It's just as important as, if not more important than, your brush pack or exactly what kind of tablet you use.
The two classics.
Yeah, brushes are important, but a lot of stuff are important, and I think perspective somehow is the last thing a lot of artists want to tackle. And it's a
Yeah.
shame because
It's so important.
yeah.
I mean, when I look at a perspective grid, it kind of makes my vision go funny, you know, if I look at it for too
Mm.
long. You know, it's like when did you ever see those like Magic Eye books where
Yeah.
you stare at it and it's just like a pattern and you stare at it for long and you start to see shapes in it.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
it's that same thing. I look at a perspective grid and I just feel myself like starting to go a bit cross-eyed. Let's
Yep.
see. Leo says, "Oh, I'm fine. How about you guys?" "Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you, Leo. Doing good." Dash, if I have some questions for my drawing along with this stream, do I put it in the study room? Yeah, you can put it in the study room. I don't know if we'll get a chance to look at it necessarily, but I'm sure other people might have something to.
Sure. No problem. I'll be happy to take a look.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, drop it in the study room, and if Arthur gets some time, take a look.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. All right, so I just starting adding a few things. What you can do, like on a separate layer, is like when you draw these sort of convoluted, complex shapes, like full of curves, is on a new layer, sort of showcase the like this sort of cross section,
Mm-hmm.
and because like there's different ways this branch could be correct. Like it could be following like strictly the depth axis, or it could be it could be slightly sideways. I think it's cooler if it's slightly sideways.
Yeah.
It's just it's less. This is sideways like this. This is like in the depth, like the other axis exactly perpendicular. So it's kind of cool to be more, I guess, to avoid right angles in nature. So this will be facing.
Zarian said, talking about brush packs, can we get the perspective? Hold on, let me take a look down here. Can we
The
get
vanishing
the
points,
perspective lines PSD file from Arthur?
like this one here,
The one the one he's using now, or the vanishing
or the
points
vanishing point
one?
one,
This one.
because this is literally like lines,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure this is. I mean, if you need someone's help to have lines on a blank square canvas, this might be a little too advanced for you. This stream.
I believe
Right.
in you. You can do it.
Mm.
Methylene says, literally listening to the stream while drawing reptiles. I need a guy who drew reptiles his whole life to teach me how to simplify scales and patterns on a lizard or a dragon.
Yeah.
Aren't you in a call with Melissa right now?
Yeah. Right. That should be that.
Yeah.
She's definitely your go-to mentor for that.
Yeah, Melissa will probably tell you. Melissa, if you're listening, can you please help?
Mm. Right. Um, all right. So here I'm also drawing, like helping me like understand the changes in elevation on the tree. Um, anyway, so all this is just to just simplify your how you read the own picture that you're drawing, and how to have like a strong landmarks to really fix everything as you go along.
Mm.
And I found this like drawing in perspective really important with foliage because like leaves have a tendency to be somewhat horizontal. I mean they can droop and like have
Yeah.
all kinds of funny shapes, but yeah, like you can tell like for example I shouldn't be seeing like if I turn off perspective here, there's no way I should be seeing like things just like sideways, perfectly sideways here. And here as well, just sideways, like everything. So that's a yeah. Just to recap, like reiterate, that's a sort of tendency we have when we draw without perspective. Is we tend to stretch the sideways feeling to like the eye level a little too far, like farther than we should, and we don't exactly sense like the progression that it should have, like in terms of change in elevation. So yeah, I'll just quickly get back to safety, the safety of my
The safety
little
of the grid.
perspective grade.
Yeah.
Safety of the grid. Yeah, I'll never get off the grid. This is for wild people to be off the grid. I'll stay in the matrix. Um,
I don't know, man. There's there's a certain appeal to going off grid, I think.
uh-huh, sure.
I would love that, Maybe not forever, but definitely for a while.
Or literally off the grid, like
Yeah, yeah,
literally
literally
in
off
a
the
hut.
grid. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, if we're talking
Yeah.
actually off grid.
Mm, yeah. What's your country or territory of that really would you'd like to try?
Oh man. I don't know. Somewhere with like a good woodland, you know.
Yeah.
I
Good
feel like
woodland. Okay.
yeah, which doesn't really narrow it down. There's a lot of Europe has really nice woodland. I mean, parts of the
Most of
UK have
Russia.
really nice woodland. Yeah, most of Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but then it'll be cold. Yeah, I don't want to be that cold. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Uh,
I need to travel more before I decide where to put my cabin in the woods.
mhm. I'd definitely go for something. No, I was gonna say tropical, but the thing is, with anything temperate, you'll run to like swarms of mosquito. Like
Oh
even in
yeah,
the forest, that's
yeah,
the thing. Like you gotta be careful with that.
yeah,
So like even the tundra, the tundra is also, I'm sure, full of fist-sized mosquitoes. Yeah,
yeah,
that's ah, how to deal with that.
man. Cry. Cover everything in mosquito nets. Just cover your whole hut in a big mosquito net. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Um,
No, I think like it's like a forest in the UK would be okay, but
mhm.
it rains a lot, so it would probably get real muddy.
Yeah. Although you'll never run out of water. That's a good thing.
That is
Always
true
have
actually.
fresh water.
Yeah, that is a good point. But days like today over here, oh man, it's beautiful. Like
Oh,
the
cool.
sun is out and the sky is clear.
Mm, cool.
Yeah. Uh, Kathy says, just eat the mosquitoes like a like you're a frog. Yeah, thanks. It's a good
Yeah.
idea. Nutritious.
Yeah. I was gonna do something like so. I was gonna do like pine trees because pine trees are pretty cool. They can like they're arranged in rows, like like mostly like this sort of stories or like floors of like pines, I guess.
Mm,
Or no, what's it called? Just branches with like this sort of needles on it.
yeah.
So yeah, right. Good explanation, Arthur. Keep going. All right. Um, so it's another thing that can be that's cool to have a perspective grid for is like to know exactly how like something, for example, around the horizon, there's these circles of like branches with needles would be somewhat flat, and then the further up you go, the more the more rounded they are,
Mm.
and then it's
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some like weird scientific name for those layers that you get on pine trees.
yeah, something nice and Greek.
Yeah, yeah, almost definitely.
I took Latin in middle school.
No,
Uh,
I mean, I'm surprised how many places still teach Latin. They're like
yeah.
I had when I was in primary school, I think I could do Latin as like an extracurricular thing.
Mm.
Um, Not that anybody did because we were all like 5 years old. So I don't know why they thought any of us would pick Latin. Um,
Wow.
but
Oh, actually, okay. They actually offered you the choice. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah, it was really strange. They were like, you can do French or you can do German or you can come after school and do Latin. It's like, nah, I think I'm good. I think I'll stick with German, thanks.
to German. Wow, that's brave.
Yeah, I feel bad.
Sounds complicated.
I'm talking to a Frenchman saying I just didn't even try and learn your language.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's hard. It's hard even for French people. But it's so yeah. French is hard for French people, and German is even harder and much more like the grammar makes no sense. I think it's probably closer to English.
Yeah,
I guess this is what I read.
yeah, it is a lot. It is quite close to English. Um, I think. I
Nice.
mean, this same with any language that any English person tries to learn is the like gendered,
Mm,
like everything has a gender, which we don't have a concept of in English at all.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like, ah, yes, well, this word is feminine. It's like, why? It's like, well, it just is. It's like, great, awesome, thanks.
yeah, yeah. It's very animistic because
Mm,
you start developing a personality for objects like in a
yeah.
gendered language that have no reason to be there. Like a fork is feminine for some reason. I don't know why. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny. I remember when I was doing German, this was when I was in high school at this point, we were all sat there and we were trying to remember, like, we were trying to come up with ways to remember what genders certain objects were. And so you
Mm.
would literally be looking at stuff in like really stupid ways. It'd just be like, well, you know, it has more like feminine curves to it, I guess. So you're looking at a table, you know, you're looking at a table, and you're just like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's so
Yeah.
stupid. Um,
Yeah.
but you're just trying to think of any way to try and
Mm.
comprehend why they have genders to them. Okay, yeah, table
Yeah.
is masculine. Okay, it was. I'm sorry, it was an
Oh,
example,
cool.
but I'm very sorry.
It's
Um,
it's feminine in French. In
oh,
case you're really after a feminine table, just buy it in France.
yeah, my five. um, so Kat said, "Wow." So Kat said, "You taking Latin makes me feel better for studying ancient Greek." What? I mean, that's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty cool. I guess the if you really want to impress anybody, that's Sanskrit is the next one. Like just go
Sanskrit,
even
yeah,
deeper into
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's isn't Sanskrit like just insane in trying to learn that is so difficult.
yeah, yeah. It's it's one of these like old school languages that are I'm sure they changed a lot, but just like Greek and Latin, like just been there for such a long time that they're just full of information. Just to just get your head around Sanskrit
Yeah.
must be like a lifetime quest.
Mm. Yeah. I've heard like a lot of the languages that were spoken by like Native Americans are really
Oh
difficult
yeah.
to learn and really strange.
Mm,
Um, I mean, strange for anybody that doesn't know
sure.
them. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Écrit stink. Okay. Écrit stink. Wow, that's a
Interesting.
Hungarian name. Écrit stink. Hungarian and learning French was the hardest thing I had to do in high school. I bet. Or cuneiform, yeah. Oh, that too.
I don't even know what cuneiform is.
It's a writing system. So it's not really a language per se. It's like a writing style. Like you have it's using clay tablets and a little stylus with shapes in it.
Oh, okay.
Usually it's like a shape of a nail. Like it's got a broad head and a narrow tip.
Oh, okay.
So like cuneiform is in the shape of a nail.
Wow.
And so they would do like these little tablets and stuff, and bake them and keep records like that. But that's not just one language. It's like a sort of
Its
a
own.
mode of language.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool.
Um, yeah, languages are pretty cool.
Yeah, I had a friend who was learning French like all the way from the start of high school straight through to the end of college. They might have even gone on to do it at university. I'm not sure.
Mm,
But I
wow.
remember when we were in college, we'd have a free period together, and we'd sit down, and she would just be sat over a textbook, like head in hands, just like I don't understand. I'm so lost right now.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Uh,
I love languages. I'm terrible at learning them because I just don't. I really struggle to focus on them. But I
yeah.
just love hearing them. Hearing all the different
Yeah.
languages is awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Leo. That's how Mesopotamian people would write. Mesopotamians.
Oh, nice. Oh, in the cuneiform.
Cuneiform, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
awesome.
yeah. Mesopotamia is between the Tigris and the Euphrates, like these two rivers that run in Iran,
Mm,
Iraq, that area here, Syria. So just a lot of civilizations there, came and went and used cuneiform. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right. So I just wanted to show something. Something also useful is like again, like it's mostly changes in elevation that this perspective grid informs me on. And like when you draw like hanging moss, for example, it's really cool to see exactly like that change in elevation from the horizon here. So
Hmm.
you can tell, okay, from this branch here, like the underside, like if I was to sort of draw a line on the exact middle of the underside of the branch, it would sort of go like this. Something like this. You know what I mean? And like the middle of the side of the branch would be somewhere there,
Okay.
and that would be the top of the branch. Yeah. So what it means is like if you want to like having these sort of landmarks help you understand like if something's hanging. Like first of all, you have to decide where it's supposed to hang. So let's say we have a nice like sort of empty area here. Let's have something hang here. Always try to pick something not smack in the middle of an empty area. Try like yeah, that's just a composition tip. Like when you want to add something, try to avoid like dividing an area into two even things because it's kind of tempting.
Yeah.
When you want to fill something quick, first you divide it in two, then in quarters or something like that. But then you end up with four mid-sized, even sized quadrants or something for shapes. So in this case, I'll just settle for something hanging slightly on the side, and uh, and now I know like with my perspective grid, I can tell this is where exactly like the sort of center of the form, and then we can have like this moss like sort of wrap around uh, the tree. And if it's not supposed to go past the middle of the branch, in terms of elevation, I'll know pretty much exactly where that is, and that's somewhere here.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to hang just from the sort of shaded underside. And then I can just make a pause, maybe a few more things hanging here and there. And then one more hanging.
That's really nice.
So everything sort of builds up on top of each other, like all your efforts sort of build up on top of each other, but they do always have in common this sort of structure, this overarching structure,
Yeah.
directing everything. And showing it like at the sketch phase, showing it to your client is really cool because they can tell, okay, I see what you mean, I see what you want to do. This is where I see a mistake, or this is where I would make a different choice. They can sort of communicate with you on that. You have a sort of common, like you're sort of tuning your picture according to a key, just like a melody or something, and your client can tell, or your art director or whoever your colleagues can tell, okay, this is actually, I see what you mean. Let's just move this around, and we can both measure using a common denominator instead of just each other's judgment.
Yeah.
And depending on the level of trust or easiness of communication you have, it can be pretty laborious. And you see, like, for example, here this branch is going to continue like off screen, over here, and we can have more moss hanging, let's say, for example, and we can tell, like, we can just continue this axis. Let's say it's going to start here and just add even more, an even bigger chunk like this.
That's nice because it adds to that illusion of depth as well if you're bringing it forward.
Yeah.
Riku says, hello people, hi Jaden, I'm late, sad face. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
You're here now. That's what matters.
exactly. Am I usually drawing? Me? Or is it? Oh no, replying to Air Christink. Okay. I'm so used to being called the best artist in the world now that I just assumed it was for me.
Oh no, we've boosted his ego too much. We've gone too far.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Lisa says super interesting to get those construction tips. Yeah, it's really cool.
There's a compliment.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Super uninteresting is what they said. Super uninteresting.
Oh,
Yeah.
nerds.
Yeah.
Damn it. I thought, oh no. Well, that's my bad. Okay.
Metaline, going back to languages actually. Metaline says, I'm still learning English, but not with a teacher, of course. I've learned a lot of stuff by playing video games and talking with others. I think that's the nice thing, especially if you're trying to learn English, is just so much. There's just so much. Like, you're surrounded by it constantly. So
yeah. I love the variety of accents in English. That's really interesting. The slang, all the stuff that's going on, like from one area of the world to another. It's. I remember when I was in high school. So I'd been learning English for years already, laboriously, painfully,
yeah.
in a very French way, with a French teacher who'd been probably twice to the UK, when we were a kid. And one day our teacher made us listen to a tape and say, okay, this is a listening practice. Just tell me what you can understand, like. And it was two Indian immigrants to the UK.
Oh yeah.
Discussing, like, one was gonna go buy a pack of Rothman's Red, and one was gonna like cook some curry or something. Like he was gonna fix something with the curry because it wasn't tasting just as good. So very like casual language and very specific, oddly specific, not only in the subject but also in the accents. And I thought, I'm done. Like this is, I thought I had something. I thought I'd built up my level to some sort of understanding, and I'm like, I'm not even close to it. If this is English, I'm supposed to understand it, I'm in trouble. Like,
yeah, I that's something I really like about English actually is hearing all of those different accents. Like a lot of people when when I speak to them, they're like, "Oh, I don't like having my accent when I speak English," and I'm like, "No, that's so sad." I think
Yeah.
I think hearing people speak English in their like native accent is really nice, um, and
Yeah, for sure.
that's such a big thing in the UK as well, though. Like, you go to London, and London is like the most multicultural city in the world, or something crazy like
Yeah.
that, and you hear, like, you're walking down the street and you hear so many different accents, but they're all, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are speaking English. But you know,
Mm.
you can tell where their heritage is, and everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's something really nice about being British, or like coming over to the UK, is like you just don't people don't really care like
Yeah.
where you're from or anything. I think once you're here, you're British, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something our teachers also emphasize, like because I took languages in university after that, and they were like, don't worry about like accents. Some people, like some French kids, they would spend like 3 weeks in New York and come back with a bunch of slang and zero
Yeah.
grammar, just a bunch
Yeah.
of slang, and they thought they were it. They thought that they had it, and they were impressing us. Like, wow, all these words. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you sound native to me, and meanwhile, like the teacher's like, yeah, don't worry. Like as long as the grammar is correct, and your vocabulary is like on point, it's real that matters.
Yeah.
People focus on information, not really the aesthetics necessary of the language. You don't have to sound properly English. If you're not, it's crazy anyway. Like you're just gonna
Yeah.
sound crazy.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I mean, I was uh I was learning to be an English teacher, and that was pretty much the main thing. It was literally like, you know, don't don't tell them accents or anything like that. Don't,
Mm.
you know, their pronunciation doesn't really matter as long as you can understand what they're actually saying, Um,
Yeah.
there's no point there's no point trying to teach anybody an accent, because it just won't it, chances are it won't come naturally to them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Let me see the chat.
Yeah, I was then taking a look as
What
well.
do you both usually draw? What is the level you want to reach now in your art journey? Ooh. Uh,
Oh,
go for it, Julian. If you have a...
no, I was gonna say I'll let you take this one. I am not an artiste, so I am the closest I get to art is miniature painting. That's about as far as I
Oh,
go.
cool.
So yeah.
That's pretty tricky. I like that. I used to build a lot of models when I was a kid.
Mm,
Uh, love that. Like, love model building. Is just awesome. I would buy these magazines, with like just perfectly rendered figurines and
yeah.
like models, and like, how is it even possible? I like, it was so long ago, like, before like so much internet resource, that I thought, how with a brush, how can you render so fine? No, they have an airbrush and a bunch
Yeah.
more stuff you don't even know exists. That's why it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. I think one of the best investments I ever made when I was painting miniatures was getting an airbrush. Oh man.
Mm.
Not even necessarily for the fine details, but just by going, oh man, I need to do like a base coat
Oh yeah.
of this paint, and I don't have to like sit there for 10-20 minutes like doing this like base coat. I can just spray it on with this airbrush. um
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I keep meaning to go back and do more, but I just there's a lot of setup involved. It's not
Mm.
at least with digital art stuff, it's like, most of the time you've got
Yeah.
your setup there, and you can just crack on. But
Yeah.
I don't have the space for that. I used to, but since I moved, I don't anymore.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Um, yeah. For me, my art thing. Let me see. What is it? Okay, what thing I usually draw? I like to draw stylized. I like two things, like stylized fantasy, or stylized just sort of. whimsical stuff.
Hmm.
That's because it's I like finding the nice like I like what I like about stylized art is finding a nice like a nice what's called like a summary between two things, like try to avoid things being too complex
Oh yeah.
and trying to find just a nice line that's somewhere in the middle and trying to summarize information, I guess is what I was supposed to like trying to say. Yeah, trying to summarize information. That's it's tricky and it's fun to find solutions and it sort of all builds up, like your level sort of builds up over time as to how to summarize things in an interesting way. That's really something I like about that.
Mm.
Uh, and when I have more time, I like drawing like realistic, gritty fantasy with blood and dirt and stuff like that. I think it's really cool,
That's
and I
nice.
like to slow build my illustrations in that style. Like I try to avoid summarizing things. I just like to add more and more stuff and see where it goes, like how complex and weird I
Yeah.
can take it. It's just two different approach, but yeah. Uh,
Yeah. I can.
and yeah.
I was gonna say I can imagine there's something really fun about almost making like an illustration like a jigsaw. Where you you kind of add more pieces as you go along and just be like try as you said like
Mm,
make it more complex as you go. Um, Seeing how much you can fit in there without making it just absolutely unreadable. Like
yeah, 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 for sure. I see. Nick, you're asking, Arthur, is it usually worth it drawing all the cracks, details, and lines on wood and following it when painting, or do you usually freestyle when you paint? Well, not everyone. Like, okay, you see, like what I drew here
mhm.
is just actually pretty loose indications, but I think it's important, especially cracks, because cracks are like they're gonna be like all these nooks and crannies and stuff. They're gonna be shadows anyway once you paint. So like laying them out in black or whatever dark sketching color you use, I think it's pretty cool. Like it's a good shortcut for painting later. Like if you had just a solid color behind this, you'll already have like your cracks like laid out for you. And if they were drawn decently enough in perspective, then you're good. Like you have a good base to go. But I wouldn't say like draw every crack. It's unnecessary. Like detail is just there to let us understand in case we cannot see clearly. To let us understand like the progression in space of something. So you see like before, this is my perspective grid here. Before it was like this. It was more smooth. And so when I turned off my perspective grid, it was just it was I was sort of missing some information here. Like I was not I wanted to show the viewer like, hey, there's actually like the trunk is like this and then the branch goes like this. Like I wanted to make sure it's understandable. So this is why I added a bunch of detail here. Um, all this sort of stuff here. But it's just in that area and it just to clarify to the viewer just enough, just enough detail to clarify the change in direction, the geometry, like how things are happening. Uh, but yeah, it's important not to over describe everything, to keep some areas of rest, even within the same texture. Sure.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see. Metaline, you say now for me, just
Oops.
just started learning shading because my shading is yes, okay. Started learning about average light, halftone, average shadow, bounce light, ambient occlusion. Okay, occlusion, occlusion. Yep,
Yeah.
uh, that's it. Okay. Oh, that's your okay. That's your next level
That's your
thing.
next
Okay,
level thing. Yeah.
cool.
Nice.
Yep, good stuff.
Yeah, getting that ambient occlusion can bring a lot. Uh, can really elevate a piece.
And I see Leo, you said, oh yeah, your lines are already so yeah. Thank you. And you already just the right amount of occlusion on the line. Imagine just overlaying some color. It will already look finished. Right. Right. So, Thank you for. Sometimes I think it's too many compliments. I should just read them silently first, and if they're not too complimentary, I'll read them aloud. Starting to become a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll take you down a peg or two after the stream. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll get you in a chat with Emra. See what Emra says.
Yeah. For sure. No, of course. Yeah, just kidding. It was just this insanely complimentary comment at the very beginning that just
Yep.
set off a strange precedent.
Yeah.
One of the best artists alive.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just starting to draw a snake, by the way.
Yeah.
Just there. Let's make it bigger. Like, okay, so you see there's a thing. If I leave it like this, it's gonna be the same like width or thickness as the branch it's sitting on. So gotta be careful and like either make it noticeably thinner or noticeably wider. But it cannot be the same or too close to the same because it's gonna look weird. It's this sort of thing like you might not. It might look okay, like especially if you're good at rendering, lighting, everything, it might look okay, but it's just one more thing, like fundamental things that if you catch it early on, like this sort of changes in scale and thickness and size, if you catch it during the drawing phase or the blocking in phase, then you're setting yourself up for better results down the line.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nico says, in Moon Colony, the art directors usually require a step between the thumbnails and the colors where the artist sends the final clean line art.
Well, it depends on the project, really. Like the amount of steps and exactly which step it should be. It really depends on the project. For Hearthstone, it's usually thumbnails with like not super accurate line art. Just to show a few ideas, just 3 ideas. Then when it's selected, you refine that line art, you make it like nicer, and you start adding colors and rough lighting on top of it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah. But other projects is just thumbnail first, then black and white render, then coloring in the final. So one of the projects we're working on is like that. It's first black and white render, then coloring.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they specified it was for Hearthstone in the end, didn't they? So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it, where it really depends on what the client wants as well, So.
Yeah.
Let me see. Metaline said, what did they say? Because I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time to learn anatomy and gesture drawing, but shading perfectly and rendering an artwork is the most important thing for you, at least. Oh, that's fair.
Let me see.
I think that was a continuation of them saying that they're now starting to learn their shading.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, and Leo said that they had to give you that compliment earlier because it takes them 3 line passes for things to look decent. Instead, it took you like 1.
All right. Okay, so here I'm okay. So I'm just going to comment a little bit on this snake here.
Yeah,
so right before we talked about the sort of general angle of action of a character, like this sort of axis of like this general direction for the character, and so here, like the branch is slightly like is going in some sort of slight diagonal between like the sideways lines and the sort of depth lines. And so the snake is sort of coiling just sort of naturally around it, like trying to look organic, like that. But one thing I'm trying to align now is the head of the snake. I'm trying to make it horizontal, like looking straight ahead. And I'm using this the vanishing point here just to sort of help me indicate, to help me really visualize that axis for its head. So what it means, like what it actually informs me of, it lets me understand like how, for example, if this eye is this big here, then I just continue on the other side, pick the same elevation, and do something here. And same for the corners of the mouth. Like I have now one corner here, and I'll just continue over there. And you see, like I can see the diagonal between the eye and the corner of the eye and the corner of the mouth, like how it is here. So I'll just project on the other side, the same diagonal, and the corner of the mouth I can just pinpoint it. It's just right here. Of course, it, depends on the reference, whatever you want to go for. This is a no reference, nothing, so I just picked one corner on one side and I just made sure it's exactly the same spot on the other side. When you're trying to follow reference, there's more like measuring and correcting and just trying to approach the just to get close as close as possible to the reference. But here, because I don't have reference, I just made a choice right away and just so I made it look easier than it is usually when actually you're working from reference and for a client or something. Where you have like strict boundaries for the geometry of the face, etc. Mm-hmm. But at least, yeah, perspective helps you understand that. Like I just chose this vanishing point here for the sort of axis of the head, like the sort of length axis of the head, and then those side lines help me understand like how to place those side elements here. Mm-hmm. And you see, like sometimes we don't, like a tendency we have is like to make one eye bigger than the other. Like usually we sort of make the faraway eye just smaller because there's more stuff that come in the way. There's the nose, there's whatever things. So we just have a tendency to make things smaller as they recede towards, like as they sort of rotate away from our view, like smaller than they need to be. It takes a bit of discipline to really actually like be strict and say, okay, that's how big the eye is on that side, that's how low it goes here. And what happens to make it smaller actually is that the bridge of the nose just continues like this. But I should really be careful to, like where it meets the bridge of the nose here, to really continue that curve, like to sort of mimic what's going on here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's just one more thing, like when you set your the face of your, especially the face, that's usually what I try to do. Like for the body, it can be more organic, more things can move around, but to set the perspective grid according to where the face is going to face, or vice versa, just to draw the face like following the perspective grid you've already made. That's a good way to that's a good way to like have to establish strong, clear landmarks and follow them without too much effort, because there's so many variables throughout a piece, like constantly, and the client's going to bombard you more with more stuff, like, oh, by the way, just add more thing, palm trees look weird, just remove the thing, add that. So at least what you can do is have a workflow that helps you like rationalize everything, just go reasonably through everything, like again and again and again. Like being reasonable, it's not or rational is usually not why we get into art. It's but it's a side of your mind that you have to reconcile with, and it took me a while to reconcile with just the rational, rigorous approach. Like So in France we have like it's from 0 to 20, like your levels in school. Like
Okay.
you're like it's not out of 100. I don't know how it is in the UK.
Yeah, we used to do the whole like A, B, C, D stuff, but I think it's now 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Okay.
Yeah.
So in France, at least when I was a kid, it was like from 0 to 20, and I uh, I had 0.75 average in math in high school, like 1 year of high school. The year I played the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is the year I had 0.75, and I hated math so much. Like it had been a slow decline, like throughout middle school, high school, and it culminated when I was 17. I just gave up. I just couldn't care a fig about math anymore, and
Yeah.
I swore myself I would never care again. And it's not like it caught me up, like it caught up with me later in life. It you have calculators, like unless you're into
Yeah.
math, like deep math, you're probably not gonna need a ton of it. But like that thing about geometry, it really like I couldn't ignore it anymore, and I just went into like this perspective trip, and I don't regret it. It's something, it's it's worth it. It's really really worth it. So if you're not a math person, like don't worry, neither am I. You don't have to be. It's just that, yeah, my teacher used to say like you have to be more rigorous. Like she would just repeat it like a mantra. You have to be rigorous. Like in math, you have to be rigorous. Like there's no two different ways to have the same result or something. And I hated rigor. Like I just hated it. And so,
Yeah.
drawing is the perfect escape. You don't have to be rigorous about anything. You can draw whatever you want. But it's a nice sort of hidden face of art is the rigor of it. And if you can develop a bit of rigor your own way, you develop it your own way, using the tools you want, finding, exactly, exploring, pushing the boundaries you want, the limits you want. Rigor is really a great ally in your development.
Yeah.
Um,
I kind of relate to that. I hate maths so much. I hate it so much. I had to in the UK. We have like we have, I don't know if they're the same in other countries, but we have GCSEs, which are like at the end of
okay.
high school, um, and you you need to get at least a C in English, science, and maths. Those are the three you have to get a C in. Um,
Okay.
if you don't, then you have to redo them until you do. Um,
Mm.
and I remember I failed my maths exam the first time I did it, and I was just like, I just don't get it. I don't understand any of what I've like spent the rest of my life learning. I don't understand any of it. Um, but then when I went to college and retook my maths exam there, I passed it
Mm.
like first time on that retry. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was like something. I spoke to my parents about it, and my mum had a very similar experience where it was just something like clicked one day,
Mm.
and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. Um, I mean, I haven't done proper maths in years, like structural maths of this is how you do X, this is how you solve this
Ah, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in years, so I wouldn't be able to do it now. I just, figure it out my own way, or yeah, grab a calculator.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Ask your friend, like your good at math friend, to do something
yeah,
for you.
yeah, exactly. Um, I saw that we had a big question from Kathy, so I'm just gonna.
Oh,
She
okay.
said, perspectives usually convey a specific emotion slash mood and can dramatically change the atmosphere of an illustration. Sometimes I'm having a hard time choosing the right one. Would you ever recommend going for a linear angle, which can easily turn out quite boring? If yes, when?
Oh, okay, good. What's a linear angle? What you mean like a flat,
Just like
like just a flat horizon?
I'm assuming that's what they mean, but let us know.
Linear angle. Yeah. So well, while you refine like just that point, raspberry, I just want to say like in general for perspective, like a good trick is to no matter what you use, like the angle, whatever, try to avoid the smack like the middle for the horizon. It's boring. Like it's try to throw things off a little bit, have things slightly from below, slightly from above, and we're working. One of our projects right now is a cinematic for a Blizzard game, and the art director for that game, he's super into like dramatic angles. Because in our layouts, in our like sketches, we're like, yeah, we're just doing things that are just without really thinking about it. We're a bit too much like the horizon too close to the center of the picture, and that would make everything flat, like everything sort of boring, everything sort of flat like that. It's like even when it's just two people talking, just throw things off. So one is like here and the other here, suddenly completely different. Like you're by lowering or rising the horizon, you already promise yourself a cooler angle of view. Like you're already defining the rest of your piece in a much more interesting way. So that's one thing. The elevation of the horizon. The second thing is when you set up your vanishing points, try to avoid this. So just having the horizon, like the horizontal lines like this, and a vanishing point, just right there like right in the middle, because that would again like make everything either face this way, like towards the viewer, or sideways. Even if you do something that's organic, it's just a strange sort of uncanny sort of perfection to your perspective. That's maybe not good to follow. Whatever you do, like try to have some cool sort of diagonals, one way and like same the other way. Just try to have one vanishing point closer to the side of the canvas than the other, if they're both off screen. If one is in screen, that's great. Make sure the other one is completely off screen. Make sure the other one is just like a set of lines that are more like closer to horizontal. And if you want to throw things off even more, you just give it slight tilt to the thing. It's called a Dutch tilt. I think it's a cinema, like a movie making device, a sort of technique where you just slightly angle the camera, and it gives the impression that the action is so intense that the viewer is caught off guard, almost like, so it's slightly caught off balance, and things are just moving too fast or too unsettling, so the viewer is actually losing its balance. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, just flat horizon. Okay, well then, yeah, a Dutch tilt, please. That's what you need.
It's funny how just like a tiny change, like just angling it a little bit, can make something so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Metaline says, what do you think when I or any of us start doing a portfolio? Oh, okay. I think I understand the question. When do you think people should start building a portfolio, or should they try and reach like a certain baseline level before they start building a portfolio? I think is what Metaline's question.
All right. Yeah. Well, you cannot be like it's. I would say, it's okay to not. It's okay if you want to try something right away. Like if you have like 6 pieces, 12 pieces, even if they're not perfect, you can put some together portfolio. If you get some clients, it's great. It means you're good enough. If not, it means you just need to update it. I would keep my portfolio to 12 pieces personally, like anything between 6 to 12. It's a good, and to show a variety of subjects, even if it's within the same style, just a variety of subjects like female character, male characters, creatures, environments, whatever. Well, at least if you want to be like a sort of, to show that you have a good grasp of art in general, like a good enough grasp. If you want to be a specialist, it's okay too. You're a specialist. But the main the main point is I think to show that you're a fundamentally good artist. Because you might, again, that's something we're looking for at Moon Colony, kind of constantly. It's just looking out for artists that are good at a fundamental level, so they understand perspective enough, they understand like anatomy, they can structure a character well from the get-go, you know, if they're a character artist or an environment or whatever. Like they're good designers, good like you can tell that they don't need a bunch of frills, like just the rendering skills that can come later. We can always, there's always more artists that are good at rendering than there are good artists at those fundamentals. So it's, you know, we're not, that's really where the imbalance is. So please, yeah, that's what I'm trying to show here with this snake and whatnot, this sort of boring perspective streams is try to help you refine those fundamentals.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to answer your question, once you can show that you have sound fundamentals.
Let me take another look at the chat. I wanted to ask Arthur something. If an artist wanted to join the studio and the skills they had are good enough for what you're looking for, how much would you mind if he had little to no working experience? I mean,
yeah. So interesting. Well, would probably, if they had no experience at all, would probably give them a test. If it's really convincing, like you can tell, portfolio is like rich, like 12 pieces, and it's like really nailing a lot of stuff. Well, it doesn't have to be perfect. No portfolio is perfect, but if you can tell, okay, this is really somebody who's got their fundamentals down, and they're creative, and they're like good at what they do. Like if it's just appealing, period. You know, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have a long or any experience really. What's going to happen is you're going to get a test probably. There'll be, just to be sure, we want to see if you can actually work. Like if you've never worked, you know, everybody starts somewhere. And so let's just give you a test, you know.
Yeah.
That would be the answer for that. And that's an honest, that's not like a political, like, you know, like a being nice to people who have no work experience. It's true. Like it's actually, it's really what happens in our studio.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it comes down to that everyone has to start somewhere. And especially if your portfolio shows that you have if your portfolio shows you have the skill, then really that's all it comes down to, right? It comes down to, well, are they capable of doing the work in the time frame or you know, in the way we would want them to, right?
Oh, exactly. If anything, you might actually be cheaper than an established artist with a long, you know, list of awesome projects that's just as good as you, but it's like, yeah, because I've worked on so and so thing, I'll charge like, you know, $100 an hour or something. And like, well, we're off budget here. So actually, it's pretty rare. But if you happen to be that unicorn that's like somehow has just never worked yet, but you're really good enough, you'll be snatched off the streets pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then you can be the one to charge $100 an hour.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have said that. That's all right. Yeah. All right. Just a last comment on like my snake here. I was doing this. This perspective really also helps me understand what's exactly facing down. So you know, like there's like this sort of ribbing pattern, like the sort of scales on the belly that are different than on the back on the snake. This is very simplified with like just like these sort of lines that go like this. So it's a bit ugly, but yeah, like with that I can understand exactly like how, like now this, you see like the belly sort of curving around the branch and then sort of hanging like this. So now like we would just see the belly like this, a little more of the back here. Like different things can be correct. This is just a solution I'm sort of settling for, but and less back over there. Then, so yeah, it's really about like one thing that makes you a good artist in general. It's consistency throughout a piece, and if you can show that with a drawing, it's really good. Because like a lot of artists, given enough time, given enough reference, given enough AI generation, stuff like that, they can come up with something that looks really, really decent. Um, but if it takes you a month and a lot of just random inspiration to get somewhere, yeah, it might be you might not be ready to work. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm getting some major Jungle Book vibes from this guy.
Ooh, yeah.
I can't remember what the snake's name was in the Jungle Book. Uh,
Oh my god, yeah.
all I can think
Ka?
of is
Is
the
it
one.
Ka?
Oh, it might be Kai. Yeah. All I could think of was the snake from Harry Potter being called Nagini, and I was like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not Nagini. It's I have to Google it now. Snake from Jungle Book. Yeah, it's Car. Yeah.
Well, I haven't thought of the name Ka in, I would probably safely say 30 years. Like I'm 36 now. I don't think I've ever said Ka before. After that, uh,
In googling that, I only just found out that the Jungle Book was written by um, by Rudyard Kipling, who's like a famous
yeah.
English writer. I never knew. I don't know. I assumed it was like some kind of, I don't know, folklore like thing from
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, but no, it's
Probably from India, right? It's
yeah,
supposed to happen in India.
yeah. I just assumed it was some kind of, yeah, like folklore story
Mm.
from India, which, following down this rabbit hole even further, that nobody asked me to jump down, but I'm going down anyway. Um, he was born in India, so there we go.
Ah, yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
That might be why, but that's cool. I hope, man. Yeah, I haven't seen the Jungle Book in a long time.
Yep. Me too.
Uh, Mordenshine said, "Is it possible to work in this industry if you only work traditionally?" There was an artist who did magic. I think he did magic cards, but he only
Mhm.
worked on canvas.
There's a few.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a few. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even for Hearthstone.
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What?
There's a few that work only. Oh yeah, yeah. And they actually make good money selling the originals. Like an
Oh, that
actually
would make
painted
sense.
canvas is worth 800, 1,000
Yeah.
more dollars. And it's in
Wow.
the contract of like the basic contract that at least that I signed for Hearthstone at the time. It's like, yeah, you have the right to sell your own, like your originals. Like you keep ownership of your originals, which of course you don't if you only have a digital canvas. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, if you have a digital canvas, yeah, it's yeah, there's a few. There's definitely a few. It's an industry. Like it's fans collect these, and there's less and less because of course now it's mostly people mostly draw with tablets. That's the
That's
thing.
that's crazy. I don't know why. I think I always looked at Hearthstone. Like I could picture it for Magic because it kind of has that more like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It kind of looks more like a canvas style. But I never knew that for Hearthstone. That's really interesting. I'll have to
Yeah,
see if I can
yeah.
find some of those cards.
Well, there's an artist named Alex Horley. He's like the household name for Hearthstone art. Like he's been there since the beginning. He's like a veteran artist. Like he's older than me, like
Wow.
by a few years. And last BlizzCon in November, I was there like selling some prints, and I looked like a fool selling prints next to a guy who had a desk full of gigantic, amazing traditional artworks of like
Oh.
iconic characters. I was like with my little prints of Mr. Bigglesworth or whatnot.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, okay. Chicken Man said, Chicken Man, every time I see your name, it feels so funny to say it. Chicken Man said, the dude that painted Tiamat made more money selling the painting than getting paid by Wizards of the Coast. Wow.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine that. Man,
Yeah,
that's what we need to start doing here at Moon Colony. You know, we need to start getting people painting on canvas, and then you know,
totally.
then we can sell it, get more money. It'd be perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my sort of perspective also. Hopefully that made sense. Yeah, let's sort of go through the main points again
Sure.
one last time. Uh, so either start with a perspective grid or start sketching, then like put together a perspective grid on top of your early sketch to help you fix a few things. But however, like whichever the order, it doesn't matter. It's really at some point use perspective and have a horizon that's either high or low. Try to avoid just smack in the middle. Use a Dutch like a slight tilt if you want. That's always interesting. It's sometimes it can look a little too like unnecessary, just like a little too like extra dramatic for no reason. You know, if especially if it's supposed to be a peaceful thing, like having a Dutch tilt on just a character sitting there, it's you know it's a little too much. Um, but yeah, like try to find an interesting angle of view for your perspective, and pay attention when you draw organically. What's the thing you're going to mostly pay attention to is the changes in elevation.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what your perspective is going to inform you about. Another thing it's going to inform you about is like how things get bigger, like exactly how much bigger they get the closer they are to you. So you're not all over the place with foreshortening, with you know a tiny leg further in the back, a giant hand in the front. You don't know exactly know why. You think it looks cool, but it looks weird. Um, yeah, so perspective is good for that. It sort of helps you establish like how depth behaves in your painting. Um, and that's pretty much it.
Sure.
Yeah, try to use one axis like as the main axis for your like it's either the visible vanishing point or whichever line you want, whichever set of lines. But try to have one set of lines indicate the overall axis for your character, especially the head. It's gonna be easy to then adjust the size of everything because on the head everything is symmetrical. So having lines really helping you understand how things progress in depth and sideways while maintaining the same size, you know, that's going to be also helpful, super helpful. That's how I made sure the geometry of the snake was like sort of correct here. I used the vanishing point that's here as the main axis for the head, and I used the sideways, like the sort of lateral lines here, as a ways for me to sort of check symmetry of the face. Nostril here, nostril there, corner of the mouth here, corner of the mouth there. So yeah, that's it. And however long I've been painting, I don't think I could have something that's so like even if I'm an experienced I've been drawing for many years. I don't think I would be able to do a drawing that I'm so confident in without a perspective grid. You can always eventually get somewhere nice, but it's really good to have a perspective grid to really like clarify everything for yourself first, and you can even show it to your client as a sort of translucent, like just a slightly transparent layer on top of everything. You can make a sketch with, especially if it's a messy sketch full of information. If you want to show really the progression in depth of your piece, you can make a version of the sketch without the perspective grid, and just next to it, a version of it with a slightly visible perspective grid, so your client can sort of understand you have a common denominator, you have a common sort of set of spatial like space references, and you can both understand like you have a sort of middle ground to really connect to instead of each other's faulty perception and individual judgment. You know, you can really get something like it can clarify a lot of doubt just having a perspective grid visible.
Awesome. Well, let's see. If Arthur says perspective grid always, we all need to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
It's
That reaction. Yeah.
But okay, for example, we have one last example to tell you it's true. It's like we have a video game that's using stylized characters and they want us to come up with a sort of long. It's not quite a splash art, but it's like a complex picture that's going to be long with a bunch of characters in an environment like a swimming setting. You know, it's like a some summer vibe sort of key art for these characters, like some well-known characters. So the players are going to be familiar with these guys. We have to place them in perspective in a certain environment, and to do that, we need an artist that's good at doing that right away from the get-go, and who is able to reassure the client with that, with a good, solid composition in perspective. And we have a few artists who can actually do that. And our artist is Etienne Savoie, a fellow Frenchman. That's why I say it. He's, he's actually really good, and he's in high demand. Like we're joking about cloning him. Like it'd be cool to have at least one other Etienne Savoie, so we could just have more work done.
Yeah.
Because it's a shame because it doesn't have to be so specialized. You know, it's not like I'm the mech artist or I'm the thing. I think every artist should have a decent enough command of perspective, because it's going to simplify your life, your client's life. It's going to make you more versatile. It's going to give you more work for sure. So yeah, hence the yes reaction.
Yeah. No, that was really good. That was super informative. I mean, if anyone has any sort of last minute questions, then feel free to fire them in the chat. If not, then I think we're probably good to call it, right? I'd guess.
Sure.
Yeah. So Cats might be a bit too soon, but do you guys have plans to be at Concert 101 this year? I'm unsure about that, to be honest with you, but I would like to be, but whether we are or not, I don't know yet. But Dash said, do you think about cone of vision or focal length when you're sketching?
I'm not even sure what that is, so
Yeah,
no, I don't literally think about these things.
Is.
But if you could clarify, I have maybe use just 10 more minutes in case there's more questions or you want to take the time to clarify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cone of vision. That's interesting. The cone of vision.
I just gave it
a
quick Google.
Okay, so I imagine it's like just because. Like yeah, like the closer it is to your eyes, you see like your vision is like a cone, basically.
Warped.
Like you see a sort of what's that, warped?
They said it's how warped the perspective is. Like I guess the
linear perspective, like curvilinear perspective, you mean? Because there's the thing, like there's this artist. Sorry, it's I get it here. I have to find his name. He's not a hot artist. He's long dead. It's a 16th century artist.
Wow.
His name was. Gotta scroll up. Oh, okay. Jean Fouquet. He's let me pull up.
Yeah. Whoa.
So yeah, it's pretty weird. But he did. I'm trying to find his curvilinear perspective. He had a trip for a while. Like he would paint everything in curvilinear perspective. I just have to find. Yeah, this one here. So this big enough? Too small. All right. Right. So you see, like curvilinear perspective, it's a perspective that sort of that's where nothing is really straight, like except maybe the vanishing point in the front. Like I guess those are straight lines, but everything else sort of curves in an interesting way. And that's essentially that's how we see. Like we don't see things straight. Like we all see like in curvilinear perspective. We just don't really like our brain interprets it, like makes us understand things straight. So for our sanity, but in truth, like there's no such thing as like this sort of straight lined perspectives. That's just a sort of a fictional way of doing perspective. So to be truly rigorous about perspective, we should all draw in with curves everywhere. I mean, as a perspective grid. But that's not necessary. It's really cool when you have a great like a piece that has a huge scale, you know, and you want to show like just the vastness of it, just the scale of it. So curvilinear perspective helps emphasize that that thing. But yeah, that's just another subject, maybe for another stream.
Yeah, maybe another time. Ignacio says, I always do subtle mesh on the sides to get that curved effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Gibbs, you said, or better saying, the cone created by the angle coming from the eye towards the picture plane. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's I guess the field of view. Like it's sort of similar to the field of view, right? Like how much your vision can encompass. So right. So basically, I guess that would mean the cone of vision would mean if this is your eye and your nose and your mouth, like your eye, you know, can see like this, I guess, right? It's like it's essentially a cone. So, well, I never really thought about it, but now I understand what you meant.
Man, yeah, I don't know if many people I've spoken to really think about that kind of thing, because I don't think, like, yeah, I guess it's fairly rare for you to actually be drawing something from, like, through somebody's eyes, you know, like, you know, or do you imagine that? I don't know. Like when you're painting, when you're drawing, do you imagine that you are like you are stood looking, well, like actually, or
okay? Well, in a way, yeah. Sure, and I think a perspective that works well, it sort of helps you. It makes you think, okay, there's just this sort of weird dark gray border, but I'm actually seeing through a space. It's ideally, yeah, it should be like that. But sometimes, I mean, this is because here, like this perspective layout, like with like a vanishing point visible, the other not visible. It's sort of made to resemble like our field of vision, like how much we can see and stuff like that. But of course, you can exaggerate things, make things more like distorted, and of course, that's less immersive, or at least less natural looking, just more dramatic. Yeah.
Camera lenses work similar, so we have that type of reference to see how the distortion can work. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Well, awesome. Well, unless we have any other questions, I feel like we should be good. All the way from palm trees.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah, to a nice snake hanging out.
Yeah, to a nice snake. Zarian says, thank you as always, Arthur. Yes, thank you so much, Arthur. It's always a pleasure to have you on here and to chat with you and absorb your wisdom. That says, thank you so much, Arthur and Jaden. awesome. Thank you for the stream. It was super informative. Yeah, glad you enjoyed it, everybody. Glad you liked it. Don't forget, if you need to rewatch it, then you can rewatch it on YouTube. It will be on there straight away after we've finished the stream. So, well,
awesome.
It might need to render first. I'm not sure, but it'll be on there at some point today. So, but thank you so much. No, thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Come along tomorrow. We have a stream with Melissa tomorrow where she'll be drawing some Dragon Ball stuff, which will be nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because
it's amazing.
Poor Toriyama he's not with us, so
yeah,
we will remember him in that stream, and it will be great.
Nice,
so
nice.
Come along.
Amazing team.
Yes. Until then, I will see you guys tomorrow. So, goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Yeah, goodbye. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.